Hello everyone and welcome to my first ever commented YouTube video, Speedpaint, because I usually just fast forward the video that I have and slap some music and call it a day, but I realize it's quite boring for long videos like this, which are about half an hour, because it's just as fast as I can go with my little tools, unless I buy like a better software or something, and I'm so sorry it's going to take so long. So what I'm doing right now is I am inking with a new brush that I decided to try on. I have thousands of brushes, I have no idea where it comes from, I just kind of hoard them like a dragon over the years. And I found this one back. It's a bit rough. It's called Dry Brush 7. Again, no idea where it comes from. But yeah, I really like the feeling of that one and the look of it, so I decided to ink with it. And as for the sketch, I did it back in December, but I didn't get to finish it. It was supposed to be a drawing for the new year, but then I reworked it in spring, and well, a bit before spring, because I thought at the time that maybe I could get it out for Valentine's Day, which I didn't. But hey, you have it now. Cool, right? So I just reworked this all in my own time and thought, you know, I don't have an excuse and I don't need an excuse to draw my boys. I call them my boys because they are the way I see Aziraphale and Crowley from the Good Omens book, even though they are not really my boys. Oh, and something a little funny is coming up, a little trick of mine, is that when I did the sketch I didn't really want to draw the couch, you know, like in perspective, so I just winged it and said, this is the perspective, I guess it looks okay. And then I realized during inking that I kinda need those details in perspective that I didn't sketch before. So I am just going to do something a bit that I thought was smart at the time, but then, yeah. So here I try to draw it and then immediately copy-paste the other one, try left, right, realize it doesn't work, just squish it and just call it a day. Sometimes squishing something just makes it in perspective. And that's quote of the day. Yeah, here I'm finishing the hand. I actually got references for both hands that grip something, because it's a bit of a difficult drawing. Usually I don't bother unless I really need it, because it's just going on Google Images for a very long length of time and scrolling through picture after picture of being slightly a wrong angle, and because it's hands, sometimes you can't just pose it yourself if you want to get the right angle. It's a bit complicated. But yeah, I managed it in the end, and so this is the line done. As you can see, I just got a few like extra details that I realized were missing. Crowley's belt, does it look better with, without? Again, I sketched pretty loosely, so some things I just figure out when I do the lining instead of the sketching. It works that way. A lot of figuring out on the go. In case you didn't ever read Good Omens, I'll just tell you a little bit about the book. It's about an angel and a demon who are on Earth as agents, and after a while of being both on Earth for a very long time, they realize that it's actually more pleasant if they're friends instead of enemies, and so they have an agreement to not attack each other, sometimes do each other's job. It's just as simple as You live your life, I live my life, and sometimes we go have dinner together. And it's also a book about the end of the world, because it starts when Crowley, the demon, receives the Antichrist, and of course he misplaces him because he is not very good at his job. And yeah, it's just a book about the end of the world, and every single character is lovely. If you haven't read it, please do. If you do not want to read it, there are audiobooks available, there is a radio show, and there is a TV show on Amazon Prime. They are all very good. Of course, I have read the book in English, in French, listened to the audiobooks, listened to the radio show, and I love every single one of them. I'm a nerd, deal with it. Here you can see that I am doing the flats of the drawing, which is basically where I pick the colors of everything, and sometimes you see that I pick a color like I did for the couch and just open a little window that lets me change the hue of the shade that I picked, just to, try some things out and pick the one I like most. Right now I am painting over the lines because I used the bucket tool from Clip Studio, which is amazing, but then it doesn't color the lines in, and because I used a bit of a rough brush, you can see that. So I'm just smoothing it out to make it look better and doing some more color changes if there's a flat color that I don't like. You can see that Aziraphale has some nail polish here that's blue. It's because in the book they say that he has a perfect manicure and he looks gayer than a tree full of monkeys high on some kind of gas. He looks very gay. And so I decided that his perfect manicure is not a French manicure, but the same color as his eyes, which is a kind of very deep blue. You cannot see it here because he has his eyes closed, but he has blue eyes. I realized later on that I forgot to paint the patterns on his little vest and bow tie, so you will see me do it a bit later on. I usually try to do it during the flat stage, so that it's baked in the flats and I don't have to deal with it anymore. You also saw a bit earlier that I forgot his glasses. Aziraphale normally wears glasses, and so does Crowley. And I elected that Crowley is not wearing his because he's inside with Aziraphale, so he doesn't need them. But I still drew Aziraphale's first on, and it still looked awkward with the kiss, so then up on his head. And this little white thing is just me adding a low opacity white to make glass for the glass of wine, and same for the glasses. And that's the flats done. So there's a bit of like renaming, making folders, everything, because it's just easier. And then I start on picking a color for the background, picking where the source light is going to be. I think I also start, maybe not right away, but at some point I stop doing the rendering and I start on the background, which is a bookshelf. See, here I am doing the patterns. My book Aziraphale is a lot of patterns. Is Pensa some, is Vesta some. It's always different patterns on the vest, but it's always the kind of pattern that your very weird grandpa would wear. You know, if you have a grandpa who was like young in the 70s and he has like those weird brown colored and like weird orange and brown and green and things like that colored vests, then you would have those kind of patterns. that is another thing that they say about Aziraphale, is that he is a bit of an outdated man, and he likes it that way because things were just better before. We do wonder when it started that things were just better before, because he has been on Earth for 6,000 years, but things were better before. I always use around the same colors for my Aziraphale. I have a palette on my CSP that you don't always get to see much, but I do have a bunch of curated colors for him. I tend to use the same ones together. He has maybe 3 shirt colors, which are baby blue, light green, and cream. And same for his bow ties and little vest thing. I just try to have them match all the time and kind of be the same old greenish colors. See, here I am trying to do a background, even though I'm not entirely done with the foreground, and I don't actually know what I'm doing this entire time. I'm just going through the motions. The moment I finished the characters flat, that was the end of what I know I am going to do. I wanted to paint this, so I am going for a bit of a painterly style, and then I kind of forgot how I can do straight lines in Clip Studio because I work in Photoshop at work, and it's not the same way, so takes me a while to find back the grid and kind of work with the grid instead. It's all a process. I really have no idea what I'm doing. While I'm doing this, I didn't talk a lot about Crowley, who is a cool young man. Canonically in the book, they say that he likes shiny, expensive new things. He has a cool old vintage car. It's just, people often call him young man. He's just the cool one out of the two, but only for his looks. If you talk to him for more than 5 minutes, you'll realize that he is just a very relatable, very anxiety-induced demon who's just trying to look cool. The first thing I did here is that I created a layer that uses my shadow color, and I put it in multiply at very low opacity so that all my colors kind of blend in together and appear to be in the same mood. It helps me really set in what my colors are going to be for this. I don't really like to think on the go as to what my colors are going to be like you would do for an actual painting. So this is the quick way to do it. And now I am selecting areas because I'm using a very smudgy brush, and just to make sure that I'm only doing shadows on a certain part of the body, I am selecting it first, which is kind of the old way of doing it. Back before I forgot to mention I have a comic artist background, and at school they taught us how to use drawing programs mostly to do the color, and that's one of the old tricks that they used to use in comics in France. When you had to do the color, they would select a part of the body, use a very big blurry brush, and then just use that to give a bit of volume, but they realized it takes a bit too much time, so they don't do that anymore. It also doesn't look very good. I am alternating this selecting technique with just straight on drawing the shadow, because sometimes it's faster and easier to just directly draw it, especially for the cast shadows like this that I am drawing right here, and the folds of the cloth. Any hard shadow really, I just draw directly. Soft shadows you need to do a selection first, else it goes everywhere and it looks terrible. We are only at a quarter of the video, or is it half already? I think it's half. We're on half the video and I am almost done talking already. Yes, I sometimes remove the lines entirely to look at my rendering. It's a very neat trick that will help you if you are doing kind of a more soft shading with something that you would like to be like have a lot of volume. It really helps to see where you need to add some more, because your drawing is supposed to work even without the line. It's supposed to look like a lineless drawing painting when you turn it off, and it really helps. I also have at the very top of my layers a black layer that is set in color mode. If you activate it, it turns the drawing in black and white, and that helps check your values for your rendering and see where you need to go darker, where you need to go lighter, and if anything needs a bit of tweaking. You will see it a bit more at the end of the video. Here you can see, whenever I zoom and it doesn't go too crazy, that Crowley also has some nail polish. This is not in the book. This is only me thinking that maybe sometimes Aziraphale gives him a manicure while Crowley just talks to him, and that Crowley doesn't really care about it much, so then his nails will grow and the nail polish will be all weird, but it's one more excuse to go back to Aziraphale to have another manicure done. So he doesn't take really good care of his nails and lets Aziraphale do it whenever. I have absolutely no idea what else I could be talking about in this video. It's mostly all of the same rendering at the moment. It will take a while because, again, I first thought that I would be painting this, but then painting means I need to pick my colors and I didn't want to, so I'm just doing a shadow layer first, which take a very long time if you want to do it as softly as I did here. I guess I could be talking some more about these designs. I came up with them in 2020, so 3 years ago by now, and I just did it because one of my favorite artists on Tumblr was drawing a lot of interactions with the show version of these characters and the book versions, which are slightly different. They are all alternate universes of each other. And yeah, I thought, you know what, I'll just design little versions of the way I saw them when I was actually reading. And when I was when I was reading the book, not drawing it, thankfully not drawing the whole book, when I was reading it, the more I went forward, the more I saw Aziraphale as a very small, round man, even though he's only described as a bit old-looking and soft. There aren't that many descriptions in the book, really, about them. I guess it's because they're an angel and a demon. They didn't really want to describe them too much, but in general, in this book, there aren't that many descriptions. I think Anathema, which is a young witch, is mostly described as she could look pretty, but she looks a bit weird proportions-wise. Like her eyes are slightly too big, her nose is slightly too small, that kind of... She could be pretty, but she isn't, because she looks a bit more human than pretty. At least that's how I took it. Yes, my English is not very good. I have been talking for 20 minutes. Bear with me. I should be coming up with the end of the rendering pretty soon. Bit hard to tell when it is, because I did a lot of rendering on this. Yeah, I see it's mostly details now. It's getting to the end. Although there is some big areas I see aren't rendered yet. So maybe I should just talk about something else entirely and not sprout bullshit. Oh my gosh, is that a bad word? Is YouTube going to come after me because I said a bad word in my video? Well, while this is going on, I guess I can already thank my patrons who are supporting me on Patreon and are a very nice extra source of income that lets me buy fun things for myself and donate money to other artists, to commission other artists, or even just donate to charity during events, because thanks to them I can spare the extra expenses. And their names are Gentany, Epivet, Claudine, Bry, Kate Dragonbow, and Cass Wesson. You will see their names at the end of this video. Thank you ever so much for your support. If you read the Good Omens book and you have book versions, please let me know in the comments. I would love to see them. If you have any headcanons about them, please let me know as well. I absolutely love Good Omens with my entire soul and heart, and I'm always in to talk about it and hear about it. I actually cosplayed both Aziraphale and Crowley, my book Aziraphale and the show Crowley at Facts, which is a convention in Belgium. So, you know, it's getting there. If you are wondering if I will add pictures of this in my video, no, I will not. It's above my level of video editing, which is just go faster, talk over it, add some music and call it a day. I am not really good at this. Ah yes, finally, the end of the rendering of the shadows. Here I tried the trick that I always do on my drawings, which is add a very big, blurry light source and set it to overlay and be done with it. But because I wanted more of a painterly style for this, I didn't end up going through with that. I went back, as you can see right now, and just decided which of my layers was going to be an overlay and which was going to be just the actual normal layer on top of everything. So I tried deleting the shadows to bring back a bit more contrast, and then I didn't go through with it because I didn't like the look of it. It looked a bit too harsh in my opinion. And now I am actually drawing that bookshelf. Look at me, months later. There has been months since the end of the rendering. Don't at me, I have a lot of things on my to-do list. So yeah, I am drawing the bookshelf, same thing as before. I'm using the grid. I have magnetism on the grid, so if I draw straight enough, it follows it, and I can draw books, and then I just select them and fill them. I did this in 3 layers, so it's easier to just select a book and change its color, as you will see later. And I stayed very loose with this. It's not the kind of drawing that's going to be printed or anything. It's really just for myself, so it's to make the background just a little more lived in and interesting than it is with being a blank color. I'm not entirely sure how much it adds on the finished drawing, but I think it looks good. I did the books, so now I am doing the hollowness where the books aren't. There we go. Switching some layer orders, switching some colors, and then just some rendering tweaks and things like that. And then I color picked the light color that I used on the background on the left and just used it on the shelf to make it look like it's actually in the same room. I am sorry about the zoom, which is really fast. I just zoom and dezoom a lot in my work. I think it's important to be able to see what you are doing details-wise and how it actually looks in the full drawing. Because sometimes you start doing details and you just keep zoomed in on those details and they don't really matter and just make a cluster in your drawing. Here, checking my values, adjusting a few layers. And now I am actually painting. So how I'm doing this is it's a layer on top of everything else, and I am color picking and tweaking the colors from the drawing to add either a highlight or a deeper shadow. Here I am adding some blush to Crowley. I do it on Aziraphale later, doing some rework as well on his fingers because the tip of your fingers is a bit more red than the rest of your finger, and so are the joints. So I'm just doing that to make it look slightly better. Some reworking on the wine glass so it actually looks like it's in a glass. Trying to remember with muscle memory those tons of paintings we did in art school of glass objects, how they are supposed to react to light and how they are supposed to look like. In general, if you are looking at a light color through glass, it will look a bit darker, and if you are looking at a dark color through glass, it will look a bit lighter. Those kind of things and how the light reacts to all of that. Adding some more hair details because that's my favorite part. So it might be over detailed compared to the rest, but I cannot deny myself the pleasure of drawing strands of hair. Again, the blush and then a bit of red on the tip of the fingers. I did the other hand separately because the light was too different on the face compared to the hand and it looked weird. Here doing some retakes on the shirt, adding some light on the folds. Adding some cast lights from the book and Aziraphale's belly on his sleeve in the shadow, just to add a little more volume. A bit more volume on the couch as well. This is very much being finicky, but that's something I really liked with this drawing and how it turned out in the end. Deeper shadows in some places because now the light source is muting it a bit. I know it all sounds like I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm commenting on this, but I really didn't. I really just went with the flow for this. Some touch up on the bow, and there's only a few more minutes of me being finicky around. Adding the signature, that's how you know it's almost done. And now I'm going to add a bit of reflection on Aziraphale's glasses and start doing everyone's favorite part, which is checking my values, adding some layers. This is a curve layer to touch up on the contrast of the piece and things like that. And this is the finished drawing. Thank you so much for watching, and again, thank you to my patrons. Have a good day!